All right, everyone, welcome back. So we were discussing about Azure storage, and now we'll be on the lesson 2, which is blob storage. So I've just described to you that there are four categories within the storage account. The first one is a blob, the second one is table, the third one is queue, and the fourth one is files. So we'll start with blob storage. Blob storage, if you remember from my last class, I told you it's used for storing unstructured data. Unstructured data includes your files, folders, images, virtual hard disks, uh, MP3s, audios, videos, etc. Right? Blob stands for binary large object. That's where the word blob came into picture. So in this module, in this lesson we are going to discuss about what is actually blob storage, what are blob containers, what are the different performance tiers within the blob, how do you upload a blob, how do you access blob access policies are something which I should tell you after discussing shared access signature. So both of these things are interrelated, so I might not tell you blob access policies as of now because it won't make sense. So people who already know about shared access signature, they might be knowing about blob access policies, but people who are new, I haven't told you about shared access signature as of now, so you won't be able to get access policies as of now, so we will just leave it. Then blob storage pricing, and finally a demonstration on blob storage. So what is blob? Blob is a service within the Azure storage account which helps you in keeping your unstructured data. It can store any type of text or binary data. It is also referred to as object storage, right? From the name itself, it says binary large object. So that is why it is also known as object storage. What are the common uses of blob storage? I mean, in which scenario you should use them? Let's suppose you want to keep some images or documents which you want to serve through a browser, right? Maybe there is a document that you have created and you want that document to be shared to the people through a browser, or maybe a picture, just like I have shown to you in the last demo, in the last module's demo. There was a picture that I was sending through HTTPS. So maybe through a browser you want to send a picture or a document that you can keep inside blob storage. You can store files for distributed access. That means, let's suppose there are multiple files that you want to share across multiple people. Think of OneDrive, think of Google Drive. Blob is nothing more than a OneDrive or a Google Drive. So just like you use Google Drive, in Google Drive you can keep your photos and documents and you can share it via Google Drive link. Same with OneDrive. Same thing is with blob storage as well. You can create a link and you can share the link for your data that you are keeping within the blob storage. You can stream videos and audios with the help of this. So you can upload a video file or an audio file and you can stream through a browser. You can also keep your data for backup and restore, disaster recovery, archive data. All of this you can keep over here. And you can also add any kind of on-premises data over here. So any kind of unstructured data that you have, you can keep within the blob storage. Now you see you have a storage account. Let's say the name of your storage account is Sally. Within the storage account, you create containers. So containers are what? Containers are more or less folders. And within the folders, you create blobs. Now let's go to the next PPT, which says all blobs must be in a container. So in my storage account, in the last module itself, I have shown you that this was my storage account and this was my container. Test was the name of my container. And within the container, I had this blob that I have uploaded, right? Accounts can have unlimited containers. Containers can have unlimited blobs. So when one Azure storage account, you can create unlimited number of containers, and within each container, you can create unlimited number of blobs, unlimited number of data that you want to upload. There are three ways in which you can give access on a container. The three ways are private blobs, blob access, and container access. What is the difference between the three of them? Let's see. I'm going to my Azure storage account, which is here, this one, right? And I'm going to blobs. And there you see I already have a container. and the public access level of this container is container. I will open this up, and you saw that when I tried to access this image through the URL, I was able to do it, right? It was possible at that time, even as of now as well, right? When you create a container, let me show you again. When you create a container, there are three public access levels which are defined: private, blob, and container. So my test container, I have chosen container public access level. Container public access level gives you anonymous read access for container and blobs. That means this test container and everything inside it, every blob inside it, will be publicly accessible by anonymous users. So a public read access will be available for anonymous users for whichever blobs are available within this test container. That is the reason why I was able to access this image, because this storage account allows you to access this blob anonymously, and there is a public access given to it. Let me go in here and let me simply let me go to this three dots and click on change access level. And this time from container, this was the access, I'm changing it to private. So I say change it to private, and then I will simply refresh this browser. Now the picture is not visible to me. Instead of picture, it says the specified resource does not exist, right? Why does it say so? Because you already know that private access level does not give any anonymous read access level to any of your blob. So this access level that you have within the container, that defines whether or not you can have access to the containers and the contents, that is the blobs within it. So private means no anonymous access. Nobody can access it anonymously. Only the people who have access to the storage account can have access to this. Blob means anonymous read access for blobs only. So all the blobs that you're uploading to the container, by blobs I mean your data, only for that particular data you will have public anonymous read access. In container, not just the blobs within the container, but the entire container actually can be publicly accessible. So you can access the container directly if you have container anonymous read access, right? That is the difference. So in the first one, in private, if I go back to this diagram, in the private, no access. Nobody can anonymously access your containers and blob. In a blob, only the individual files or individual blobs can be accessible. In container, the whole container along with all its blob will be anonymously accessible over the read access. Okay, so these are the three access levels. Now, okay, so these are the three access levels. Now the performance tiers. You remember when we talked about the storage account, we also talked about cool access tier and hot access tier. Similarly, once you are done with creation of a container within the blob, right? There, when you try to upload a blob, by blob I mean any file that you have, and you select that file again, right? And let me select something else. Okay, let me select this one, right? So when you select a blob and then you go to advanced button, there is another options which are available in here, right? So we'll talk about these options as well. Let's see, let's go back to the PPT first. So when you go to blob, you have access tiers, right? Now access tiers are the same thing which I have described while the creation of storage account began. So there are three access tiers in here: hot tier, where you want to access any data frequently. So like I said, if you want to access any data which you want to access every day, put it inside the hot tier. Cool tier is data which you do not require frequent access to, but you at least require them for every 30 days. So if you have that kind of data that you review in a, let's say, monthly basis, you do not review it every day, you review it on a monthly basis, that kind of data you can put inside the cool tier. Then you might have other data as well that you just want to, view once or twice in a year. If you have that kind of data, put them inside the archive tier. Now you might ask, what is the difference between hot access tier and cool access tier at the storage level? And what is the difference between hot tier inferred, cool tier archive at the blob level? The first difference is when you make changes to hot tier and cool tier at the storage account level, that is the change that you are defining on the basis of which your backend data devices are chosen, right? So on the backend, which kind of device you will choose, but to store your data, that will be taken care by hot access and cool access tier option, which appear while you create the storage account, and that cannot be changed later on. That's one thing. When you create your storage account and then you come to blobs, within the blobs, this hot tier, cool tier archive, this is something which is done at the blob level. This is not done at the hardware level itself, right? So it is stored in such a manner that some of the blobs will give you high performance when you keep it inside the hot tier. Some of them will take 30 days. If some of the data which you require to be accessed on every 30 days, that it will automatically keep in that kind of storage, which is not that much frequent, and the archive data or the log data it will keep inside the archive one. But you have to select these performance tier. If you do not select them, then these options will not appear to you, right? So this access tier is changeable in nature. So the access tier for you can say when you created at the storage account level, it was not accessible. It was not changeable, but this access tiers are changeable for your environment. Okay. All right. Now let's go and see the next thing in here. So I'm going over here, and so I already have this this blob which was uploaded in here, and in the blob you can see that the access tier is hot inferred, right? This is different from the hot and cool access tier that we did on the storage account level. If you click on this three dots over here and you go to view edit blob and go to overview, and from here access tier you can choose it to be inside the cool, inside the archive one. What is the benefit of this, right? You might ask, why shouldn't I already keep my data inside the cool access tier while creating the storage account? I'll tell you what the benefit is and what the benefits are not. Let's suppose you created a storage account, and in the beginning you chose it to be on hot access tier, right? Now it is not changeable because you did this on the storage account level. You kept your data over there. After 1 year, you realize that the data that you kept on to the storage account, that data is old. You no longer require it. So either you need to remove it from there and put it into another storage account which might be using cool access tier. That is one thing that you could do. But let's suppose the data is very, very big, right? In terabytes or petabytes. So will that be a possible option because you will be copying your data from one storage account to another one? No, right? In that kind of scenario, you don't have to do anything at all. Simply go to the files which you think are no longer, you can say, no longer required to be inside the hot access tier, and make the changes from here. If you want to move them to the cool access tier, they will be moved to the cool one. If you want to move it to the archive one, just move it from there. So even though you are using hot access tier at the storage account level, you should be able to change the access tier at the blobs level, at the individual files level. Okay. So there might be certain files that you want to keep inside a low cost environment, and there might be certain files which you want to keep within the hot one. That is the high performance environment. Okay, which you want to frequently access, put them on hot. Which you want to access on a monthly basis, put them inside cold. Or if you want to access it biannually or once in a year, put it inside archive and save your cost, because cost is very much important. Okay guys, these are the access tier that you have. How do you upload your blob? So if you go back in here, I will upload the blob again. By blob, whenever I say blob is some data that I want to upload, some unstructured data. So I will be choosing another picture in here, and this time I will go to advanced button. In the advanced button, there is a blob type as well, which is blob, page blob, append blob. What is the difference between the three of them, right? Now we'll see what is the difference between the three of them: blob, page blob, and append blob, and what help does it gives to us if we choose any of these three options. So there are three things: blob, page blob, and append blob. Blobs are by default used for storing your data. So whichever data you will upload, they will by default will go to blobs. But blobs are further divided into different categories, right? So it's not like that you should use blobs for all the scenarios. Blobs should be used in a particular scenario only. For example, if you have text or binary data like your files, images, and videos, it is recommended by Microsoft to put that kind of data within your blobs, right? Append blobs are those blobs which are made up of which are optimized for append operations. So let's suppose you have log files. How log files work? There is one log file, the log file is completed, then it starts writing into the end of the log files. So log files are continuously appended, right? So there is, let's say there is a log file which you create. So it starts with the beginning, and as soon as the logs come, it starts updating itself. So when you have any kind of data which requires logging, which requires log files, put them inside append blobs. Microsoft recommends log file should be there inside the append blobs, because you are frequently writing to it, so it should be inside the append blobs. Page blobs are used when you have big data such as virtual hard disks, OS and data disk that you want to have, right? Page blobs can be up to 8 terabyte in size. So the maximum file that you can put in an Azure page blob can be of 8 terabyte, right? Page blobs are usually used for storing virtual hard disk like OS disk and data disk. Again, this is very important, and it will come inside your exam in any form. So the concept should be clear. Blob is used to store text and binary files like images, videos, documents, PPTs, etc. Append blobs are used for logging operation to store log files. Page blobs are used to store for hard disks, virtual hard disks like OS disk and data disk. This is the recommended options which will appear to you once you are uploading your blob. This option will only appear to you at the time you are uploading that particular blob. So let's suppose I am uploading an image. Where should I put it? I should put it inside the blob that is recommended by Microsoft. If I'm uploading a log file over here, where should I upload it? I should upload it inside the append blob. And if I'm uploading a virtual hard disk, I should upload it inside the page blob. That's the recommendation of Microsoft. You will also see something. Just give me a second, guys. Let me turn on my charging. 1 second. there is one more thing in here which you can check if you want to go further, if you want to deep dive into Azure blobs and why Microsoft has further categorized into block blobs, page blobs, and append blobs. It's the way the data is written. So you will see the block size. You can see it from here. Block and append blobs are comprised of blocks, and each block can support up to 50,000 block. If you're not aware about this, you can just skip this section. I'm just telling this for people who wants to deep dive into this, right? So when you select block blobs, the block size means where the data will be written. That particular device, the data will be written to that device in the form of blocks. The maximum size of that block will be 4 MBs. So what we have is when you're writing data to the device, data is written in 4 MB blocks. So let's suppose you have a data of 100 MB, that data will be written into 25 4 MB blocks, right? Instead of, in case of page blobs, so it is giving you an error over here, right? In the case of page blobs, so it's not appearing in here, right? But you get option over here which says upload .vhd files as page blobs in here. And the third option is append blob. Append blob also is a kind of blob which is there to provide you a recommended approach to upload your log files. So let's not go inside the block size anymore because it will only confuse things. We'll talk about block sizes and how the data is written to the data devices in a separate class. As of now, remember three things. Block blobs is used for storing text and binary files like videos, audios, images, documents. Page blobs are for virtual hard disk, and append blobs are for logging purposes, log files. This is something that I will skip as of now because to understand access policy, you should know about what shared access signatures are, and shared access signature I will let you know inside inside one of the module which will appear in this course. You can also see inside the PPT it said SAS is covered in more detail in the last lesson. So when we'll cover the SAS, then we'll cover blob access policy. So I will shift over there at that time. Now comes the most important part, the pricing. For what kind of scenarios would you be charged for a storage account? So when you talk about storage pricing, storage has different criteria for charging your for charging you, right? The first criteria is dependent upon your performance tiers. Like I said, if you choose hot access tier, you will be charged more. If you choose cool access tier, you will be charged less, right? Second thing is data access cost. Data access cost means data which you want to access on the storage account. For data ingress, there is no charges applied as of now. For data egress, you will be charged. So if you are downloading certain data or you are accessing certain data on Azure storage account, you will be charged for each transaction. Transaction is simply basically how much data you want to download from a storage account or how much data is being accessed by the users from a storage account. Let's suppose you created a website. On the back end of the website is using a video. The video is stored inside the Azure storage account. So every time a user goes to that website and click on that video, it will be streamed from the storage account. So you will be charged for each of those transactions. Geo replication. This is something which we will cover inside the replication part. But if your data is getting replicated to secondary region, so your storage account will be in one primary region and you might have implemented geo replication. That means you might have replicated your data to secondary region as well. There also the cost will appear. Outbound data transfer cost. Outbound data transfer cost means the data that is transferred out of an Azure region. In that scenario also you will be charged separately. And changing the storage tier. Okay, so when you change the account storage tier from cool to hot, it incurs a charge equal to reading all the data existing inside the storage account. Okay, these are all the things, these are all the pricing criteria which are available. make sure you thoroughly read them, because based upon them only you can decide whether in a particular scenario you will be charged against a storage account or not. So you might get a question which says that you have a storage account and you are uploading a blob to the storage account. The blob size is 10 terabyte. How much money you will be charged? In that kind of scenario, you have to understand that for uploading of data through the portal there are no charges, right? So you can upload as much data as you want, but yes, to retrieve that data, to store that data, you will be charged. So if someone says, if I want to access a file which is there on Azure storage account, and I'm doing it from a system, and that file is of 10 terabyte, will I be charged money? Yes, you will be charged, because you are accessing something from Azure storage account. You're working with data egress, right? So that is it. That is charging. That is pricing that will appear inside your storage. I've already shown you how to upload, how to create a container, how to upload a blob, how to download it as well, right? And I've already shown you how to explore it with Storage Explorer. But if you have any questions, do let me know. That is all within this, guys. If you have any question, leave it within the comment section, and I will explain it to you in case you want me to. Thank you again, and the next module will, the next lesson will be all about Azure files, which we'll cover in the next class. Thanks.